this picture here, George worked on it today, trying to get some of that stuff off of it, and he couldn't. But it's one of two pictures that I have of this piece of fence. This is at the front of our house, at the far left end, facing the house, and it's just a little privacy fence that comes out. There's a big fence that goes around the whole 2 acres of ground, a white fence, board fence. But this little piece of privacy fence here is where Dad was mowing one day, and there was a birdhouse, actually a big birdhouse, sitting on the end of it, and he ran into that fence, and that birdhouse was filled with hornets and came out and surrounded him. And he said to them, to the hornets, "Little hornets, I'm sorry I disturbed you." He had his shirt off. It was a hot day. He was rushing, and so many of those bites, it could have killed him. And he said to them, "Little hornets, I'm sorry I disturbed you, but I'm in a rush to get this yard mowed. I've been having to stop doing it on and off all day because people have been coming. I've been trying to pray for people." And he says, "I'm sorry." He says, "Now you just go back in your houses. I don't have time to play with you today." And they all went back in their houses. And so this is the only picture I have of that fence where this took place. This is my little brother Joseph trying to pretend like he's going to help mow that 2 acres. The fact is, Dad kept the yard 99% of the time. He did all the mowing. And it really bothered me when he'd be gone a long time and the grass would get all mowed up, because he liked to keep it really neat. He was really particular. He tried to be particular about his yard and about his car. He loved a clean car and a well-tended yard. This picture was taken down in Florida, and I don't know the name of the swamp where they were fishing, but that's Billy Paul on the right, believe it or not. And my dad, and I think those largemouth bass, that's what they were fishing for. And some brothers were fishing there with them. And at one point, Dad had hooked a big bass and started reeling. And he thought it was going to come loose from the hook. And Brother Welch Evans was there. And Brother Welch ran out into the water and grabbed that fish for Dad so that he wouldn't lose it. And when he did, a snake that they call a cottonmouth water moccasin struck him and bit him in the foot. Now, they were far, far away from anyone. They were miles away. And immediately the brothers just, over the Welch, we've got to get you in. Immediately. I mean, it's a deadly snake. And an awful looking snake if you've ever seen one of them. They're horrible looking. And Brother Welch, he says, "No, Brother Branham, you pray for me, I'll be fine." Dad prayed for him, and he was fine. His foot never swelled, he never got sick, never got a fever, never had one symptom from it. They just went on fishing. Now, that's Dad's fish. You know, old trick there, hold it up close to the camera so it looks bigger than ever. Give me a break, Dad. If we were in the sanctuary, I would not be showing you this picture, but since we're here, this is Dad with his days limit, the squirrels. And you know, he loves squirrel hunting more than any other kind of hunting. I mean, this is when Dad was in his element, is out there squirrel hunting. You know, he did have a sense of humor, and I've got a couple pictures here showing you that he did have a sense of humor. Once you see this other side of him, Can you imagine? Sorry, killed them. This was in South Africa at the Kruger National Park. And when he was down there in I believe it was 1951. And the brothers took him there and talked him into putting on one of these safari suits and having his picture made to bring home to us kids. And when we saw this, we kept saying, "That's not Daddy, that's not Daddy." But you know, the Stetson, the Florsham shoes, give it away. That's Dad. Yeah, he liked to clown for us. He also had this little thing that he used to do, blowing up his muscle. And somewhere he'd be blowing your thumb, and then he'd have us pull his pinky, and then all the muscle would go down. So he'd blow up his muscle, and then we'd let the air out. He'd blow up his muscle, and let the air out. This is Dad in the shooting range out in Arizona, and he was particular about his guns. And they had to be sighted in just right. They had to be able to drive a tack at so many hundred yards before he would ever take that rifle hunting. It was precision hunting. He liked pistols. Dad got used to carrying a pistol whenever he was patrolling the lines for the electric company there in Indiana. Because walking all that ways and walking through the bush and everything, snakes, he always carried a pistol at that time. So even though he didn't hunt a lot with pistols, he loved to target practice with pistols. So it's one of my favorite shots, one of my favorite hunting pictures of Dad, even though he's not hunting here. And don't you think the safari had there adds a good element with pistols? And it looks like he's in Arizona to boot. Yeah, Dad was in his element when he was in the wilderness. There he's chopping some wood up in British Columbia. And you know, at one point when Dad was considering leaving the field, this is where he thought he would like to go, was British Columbia. He actually said he hopes that the Lord will let him live in British Columbia during the millennium. He loved it there. We tried to be typical tourists. Now this is at Niagara Falls, you know. It was hard because we would leave, Dad would have a week or so off, or a couple of weeks, and we'd think, okay, we're going on vacation. And we would get up real early in the morning and leave when it was still dark. Well, by the time daylight rolled around, we looked around and there'd be 2 or 3 or 4 carloads of people following us. They stayed where we stayed. They ate in the restaurants where we ate. They stopped at every stop where we stopped. So we didn't have very many private vacations. But we tried. That was what's happening here at Sequoia National Park. Look at that. I mean, Hammond in a suit traveling. You know, when it was just Billy, Paul, and Dad traveling together, Dad would wear jeans and a sports shirt. But if ladies were along, you know, if the rest of us, ladies in the family, went along, Dad would usually wear a suit. This is some of our entourage stopping at one of the lookout sites, you know.